China is now retaliating against Canada with tariffs. I was going to put this out yesterday, but I said, I got to think on this one. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. And it all points to the same thing in the end, ladies and gentlemen. Why they had to pull the trigger on the pandemic in 2020. Why they had to do everything they had to do. It's this financial, destructive construct, deregulation of the banking system, deregulation of everything that made any sense. Accountability that they wanted to push away from or hide from. Oh, they're not going to be accountable for everyone that loses absolutely everything. What can we do to dissuade this for a while? How can we buy some time? Well, here it is. China's retaliation. China is imposing tariffs on Canadian farm and food products in response to previous trade actions taken by Canada. Previous trade actions taken by Canada. Like $911 billion is owned by Chinese nationals in Canada. $900 billion at purchase price from 2010. Starting from 2010 onward to about 2024. What's going on here? China's sweating. Because properties are dropping in Canada like rocks. The local Canadian proper cannot get into their own real estate market. If you're born, raised, educated, and have a degree in Canada, you're not going anywhere in this country, and you're not buying any real estate either. You're going to end up working for the government, and you're going to comply. Right? So, this is likely linked to the ongoing the disputes between the two countries. Specific Canadian agriculture exports such as pork, beef, and grains could face higher import taxes. Impact farmers, Canadian farmers, and exporters may struggle with a reduced demand from one of their biggest markets. Here's the thing. Supply local markets. Just supply local markets. Why are you sending your stuff to China for? Supply, we want money. No. Supply local markets. This in turn will bring down the price of food because there's an oversupply of food on the markets, right? People won't starve in Canada. And reason for tariffs. China could be retaliating against Canada's past decisions such as restrictions on Chinese goods. No. Investment limitations. Boo! Right there! Park their money in Canada! In 2010, the Harper government, with that guy that, watch our video with that selected Mark Carney. We told you 3 weeks ago he was going to win this election, and he's going to win the 2025 Canadian election through the public sector vote. Watch that video that we put up a few weeks back. Watch. Investment limitations or political disputes. Again, money laundering, right? Diversification needed. Canada may have to find alternative markets for these products to avoid economic losses. Now, the housing market is crashing in Canada because they've cut back drastically on Chinese money laundering via fentanyl and Chinese gangs. We covered this 10 years ago. So, you're just copying some channel. Mike, stop emailing me telling me I'm copying channels. Go back to my channel and see what we're saying 5-10 years ago. Oh, wow, okay, you were already on this. I never heard of you. Anyways, and trade war. This move fits into broader pattern of trade conflicts involving China and Western nations. So, I went on ChatGPT. And I asked ChatGPT, because I remember talking about China. Well, I talk a lot about China, but I remember talking about these tariffs and stuff. I remember talking about this before. They were bullying somebody. Who were they bullying? I asked ChatGPT, didn't China pull the same thing on Australia in 2021 and 2022? I remember covering it on Mike in the Night. ChatGPT said, yes, China did something very similar to Australia around 2021 and 2022. You covered it on Mike in the Night 9 times. When China imposed tariffs and trade restrictions on Australian exports. Here's a quick recap on what you said, Mike. Trigger. The trade war escalated after Australia called for an independent investigation into the origins of the C-19 in early 2020. Yep. They wanted origins. They wanted to know where this came from, who pulled the trigger on the pandemic, the much-needed pandemic that politicians much needed to shut things down economically. Right? Go watch our videos. They're going to pull the trigger on a pandemic. Go watch them. And this is a recap of what you said, Mike. Chinese retaliation. China hit Australia with tariffs, imports, bans, restrictions on key exports like barley, wine, beef, coal, and seafood. Now, if you guys remember on Mike in the Night, we were discussing how China needs the fuel. They cut back or they discontinue and sanction Australian coal. Where did they get their coal from? They just started stealing it from Mongolia. Look it up. They started just stealing Mongolia's coal and paying like a thousandth of a cent on the dollar for it. The Australian economy took a hit, especially in agriculture and resources, but they managed to find alternative markets such as India and Southeast Asia. China's strategy. China's strategy was discussed on Mike and the Nights. This was seen as you were stating that this was seen as China using economic pressure to punish and bully Australia while maintaining plausible deniability. Outcome: by 2023, some restrictions were lifted and relations improved, but Australia had already diversified its trade. Now China is pulling a similar move on Canada. It seems like a pattern when a country challenges China politically. They use trade as a weapon. And then Mike, then ChatGPT says, Mike, would you like for me to dig up any more specifics on China and the situation? And I said, yes, what have I said about China? You have mentioned China on your channel 794 times, dating back to 2013. Okay, well, it was 2012, but she goes on and on about money laundering, opioids, Chinese encampments in northern Mexico, fentanyl bleeding into California. That was in 2015 we covered that. Fentanyl bleeding into California from northwestern Mexico. Yeah, wow. So we covered a lot, hundreds, and we're warning you guys about this, of China, how they like to bully other countries, how they like to launder their money. China destroyed Australia. Watch our videos on that, how China destroyed Australia, how China destroyed New Zealand, how China destroyed the UK, how China destroyed Canada, and how China destroyed the blue states of America. You could reference our video that we made a few weeks ago, how many billions of dollars was laundered into American major cities via China money laundering, right? And and you're gonna in the comments say, "Oh, Mike, it's not the Chinese, it's your Canadian government." Our Canadian government is China. Our Canadian government is China. When you sell out your own people and make housing completely unaffordable, our Canada's economy and GDP was built off of real estate to sell to China. Now housing is crashing in Canada. Now the Chinese are losing a lot of money on those real estate purchases that they made. $911 billion laundered since 2010. That's what they counted. That's what they have counted through Chinese gangs or through very shady deals, back-end deals, shadow banking we covered. And that's why I kept warning all you guys all these years. Calculate your TDS. Calculate what you could afford to buy. Make sure when you calculate your TDS, you put your phone bill, your car insurance, because they don't take that into account when you're trying to get a mortgage. Make sure you can afford to buy what? Food. We're warning you back in 2012 that you won't be able to buy food by 2020. We were wrong on the date because they pulled the trigger on the pandemic like we told you. And that's where we are now. China loves to bully. Canada could be completely self-sufficient. Hey, Canada, if you're getting stuff all the way in from China, just get stuff in from Australia. It's the same distance. Start dealing heavily with Australia, with Australian-made product, made in Australia product, vice versa for Canada and New Zealand. Right? Anyways, guys, China's the bully on the block, and they always would be. And you know what? We don't need to send them our food. We don't need to send them nothing. Oh, we're going to make less money here. Too bad. You're already making less money because you can't even afford to buy the real estate because the Chinese ramped it up so high. So you already can't afford to live here. So how about stop sending them food and see where it goes from there. I've been standing up for Canada for too long. And I'm getting old and tired. Because I love you guys. I love everybody. Mike Martin's here. I have spoken.